presents Speed World. Welcome you to Santa Fe Speedway in Hinsdale, Illinois for USAC Sprint Car Racing. Beautiful weather, 70 degrees, the humidity 38%. Winds are from the northwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour, mostly clear skies and only a 10% chance of rain. Good evening, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Gary Lee. Well, we haven't seen USAC Sprint cars run in a couple of years here on ESPN. These are the non-wings, and the multitude assembled here tonight should provide a tremendous show, Gary.
We have the Kinzers, the Rices, the Voglers, we have the Bigelows and the Butlers, and among them, 16 national titles and a great racetrack so far. We have a couple of grooves. Should be a great show.
And the third member of our broadcast team tonight, stationed in the pit area, here's Larry Newberg.
I'm about to show you something that you will not see in any form of motor racing. Two rear wheels, about 1.5 feet in width, 14 and 18 inches to be exact, separate on an axle by 3 feet. And the amount of action that emanates from those two rear wheels is actually beyond description. Sprint car racing, as well as stock car racing, which we saw last week here on ESPN, have become two of the mainstays of motor racing around the country. Scores of tracks run sprint cars and stock cars every week. This is part of the upper crust of sprint car racing. There's also one more difference about the USAC sprint car: no huge airfoil on top. And there are some people who say that the lack of that wing is the ultimate expression in man, machine, and danger. Bob?
Thank you very much, Larry. And as we indicated, the racetrack in very good shape. We are seeing 2 and 3 grooves here in the heat races, Larry, or Gary.
Well, we have seen 3 abreast. We did not see that last week because the track started to go away as the checkered flag falls on this particular heat race, but we are going to see one fine competition this evening. And in fact, the defending USAC champion Steve Butler could not transfer through his heat race. It was so difficult from the back of the pack, so he'll be racing up in front in the semi this evening.
Well, we invite you to settle back and enjoy an evening of USAC sprint car racing with us from Santa Fe Speedway in Hinsdale, Illinois. And it's all being brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. We'll have the 4th heat race rolling out in just a moment, followed by the semi-feature and the big 30-lap feature race, all for you this evening on ESPN. Stay with us.
You're about to see the smartest oil change you can make. Introducing a new Quaker State motor oil with a revolutionary formula called QSX. QSX fights engine choking sludge better than other leading oils to keep oil flowing more freely. For a cleaner, longer-lasting engine, change your oil. Really change your oil to new Quaker State with QSX, the smartest oil change you can make. Don't miss the Quaker State 500 at Pocono Raceway on Sunday, August 16th.
The Pro Stock Thunderbird of 7-time NHRA champion Bob Glidden uses just one make of tire, the Goodyear Racing Eagle. And every Thunderbird Turbo Coupe leaves Ford with just one make of tire, the Goodyear Eagle VR Gatorback Street Radial. And not by coincidence, because Goodyear makes better high-performance tires for the track and for the street. Goodyear Eagles. They'll take you home the quick way or to the winner's circle.
Goodyear, take me home.
Back at Santa Fe Speedway, where heat race number 4 is being moved onto the racetrack, scheduled to have 8 cars in this event. Now, as far as how you make the feature race here tonight, the first 4 finishers in 4 heat races automatically move to the feature. Everybody else goes to the semi-feature. The heat races are 10 laps. The semi-feature will be 15. And then the big 30-lap feature will cap off our evening of racing here at Hinsdale. Watching the number 57 car being driven by Tony Elliott. He was the 4th fastest qualifier here this evening. Rich Vogler, by the way, was the fastest. Terry Shepard, 2nd quick. Steve Butler, the defending USAC Sprint Car champion, was 3rd fastest in qualifying. And Tony Elliott was 4th, followed by Sheldon Kinzer. No new track record here this evening. They were about a ½ second under the track record. But nevertheless, the track is very, very fast and multi-groove at this point.
Guys, keep in mind that for the starting lineup of these heat races, we invert the field. So the fastest qualifiers take up their position at the back of the pack. The slowest qualifier from this heat race will be starting at the front of the pack.
Once again, 8 cars scheduled to go in this race, moving down the straightaway next to Tony Elliott is the number 44 car of Greg Staub. Everybody getting into the formation here. This is a 7/16 mile dirt track. You saw the USAC late model stock cars on it last week. Sprint cars this week, and a week from tonight we'll be here for the Jolly Rancher National Midget Series. That should be a good show.
Well, last week we had the onboard starters. We showed you how that works from inside the cockpit, but these cars have to utilize the push truck. They have a 1-speed gearbox. They are equipped with what we call an in and out box. It's either in gear or out of gear. So a driver straps on board, kicks the ignition on, puts the car in gear, waves to the push truck driver. The driver pushes the car away. When the driver actually sees the oil pressure gauge move in the cockpit, he reaches down and kicks on the fuel. The car jumps to life. So we utilize those push trucks, get the high compression engine started here at Santa Fe.
All right, let's check the starting lineup for the 4th heat race. On the front row will be Greg Staub in car number 44. Alongside will be the 27 car driven by Frank Filisco. In row number 2, Louis Mann in car number 37 and Ron Standridge in number 10. The 3rd row will consist of Jim Mohan in number 6 and Randy Standridge in number 9. Going in row number 4 will be Tony Elliott, car 57, and Jerry Niemeyer in number 16. Niemeyer had some difficulty in qualifying, but he is out there on the racetrack at the moment, so he will be competing in this heat race. There he is, Jerry Niemeyer from the Toledo area.
Well, the driver starting on the pole is rather unusual in that he is driving the only Ford-powered car here this evening. Greg Staub out of the Cincinnati, Ohio area in car number 44. Tom Stinger is the sponsor. And Tom, for so many years, has been a major sponsor and backer of auto racing here in the Midwest. He is a Ford dealer in Dayton, and he said, if I'm going to sponsor a sprint car, we're going to have us a Ford-powered sprint car. So they have what is now a 410 cubic inch engine that began life as a SVO 351. So on the pole in that white with blue trim, number 44, Greg Staub with a Ford power plant.
Greg has only been in 2 previous feature races in USAC Sprint Car competition. No green flag, as they were not lined up in just the right order, and so we'll go around another time.
He is a perennial favorite at the Lawrenceburg, Indiana Speedway, right across the state line from Cincinnati, where they've really broken in this race car. But he said this was really the first outing for this new car as far as USAC competition this season.
Once again, Greg Staub and Frank Filisco on the front row, followed by Louis Mann and Ron Standridge, then Jim Mohan, Randy Standridge, Tony Elliott, and Jerry Niemeyer in the back row. Now the green flag comes out, and here we go with our first heat race of our telecast this evening, the 4th of the evening. And into the lead down the backstretch, it's Greg Staub. Battle for 2nd position involving Frank Filisco, but moving to the inside is Louis Mann in that blue and purple car. He's using the low groove and takes the lead right at the start-finish line. So Louis Mann is in the lead, followed by Greg Staub, and then the 27 car of Frank Filisco. Remember, the 4th position is the important one. That's the last transfer spot, and in 4th at the moment is the red number 6 car of Jim Mohan.
Already we're seeing a number of grooves being utilized. Mohan trying the high side in that red car. He has the 4th and final transfer position. As they go down, slam on the brakes, then right back on the throttle. They kick the rear end out, picking up that left front wheel. Oh, we got a red car almost into that fence.
Now a good battle for 4th position as Tony Elliott tries the low line in turn number 4, but that was not the right groove at that point. Tony is in 5th position at the moment, so he needs to move up 1 spot, and he just about does it. There he does it, passing Filisco.
Well, again, coming off that 2nd corner down the backstretch, there's a pit gate opening over there, and these cars are getting very close to clipping that outside gate with the right rear.
Tony Elliott is the car on the inside, the silver car. He has moved into third position now. Running in second, the red car. Number 6, driven by Jim Mohan, the leader way out in front.
Problem coming off turn 2, Bob. It was the Ford-powered car that lost power and has stopped trying to get to the infield. He was tagged by another car, but he safely now is parked in the infield.
So we have no yellow flag, despite the fact that Greg Staub is out of the race, having made contact with another car when the Ford engine quit running, apparently. There is your battle now for that 4th position. It's a good one. Using the low groove is the number 10 car, driven by Ron Standridge and Frank Villisco. Standridge takes 4th now.
Watch Frank on the low side now as they come off the corner almost side by side. As long as Standridge can keep that right rear up on the cushion, he gets a better bite coming off the corner. See, he stays very high up close to that concrete wall. Frank stays down the inside, and now Standridge begins to pull away just a bit in car number 10.
But you can see, we have a car spinning. That is Frank Villisco down in turn number 1. He stalled in the middle of the racetrack, so this will necessitate a yellow flag. And I believe we have completed 6 good laps. You can see him using the tear-off, trying to improve his vision.
Well, it's a good thing he wasn't driving when he was trying to do that. He had some trouble getting that one freed. But this will do one thing, Bob. This is going to bunch up the pack. Louis Mann in car 37 had almost a straightaway advantage, but that nullifies that advantage, so the cars bunch up, and we still have a few laps to go. There is your leader, Louis Mann, who has been racing for so many years, and he had the big advantage, but that all went for naught because the yellow flag, and we'll bunch up. We have 7 laps now complete.
And the order that they're running, we'll get to that in just a moment. Here is a replay of Villisco's problem down in turn 1.
Well, he just hauled her in, perhaps climbed on the brakes just a little too hard, tried to pick the throttle up again. The track getting a little slick right there, and the rear end comes on around on him. So he'll be able to be pushed off and take up his spot at the back of the pack without losing a lap. But unfortunately, I think for Frank, we do not have enough laps for him to get back to the 4th and final transfer position. Once again, the first 4 transfer, and those that finish on back 5th, 6th, and 7th, and in this case 8th, would then go through the semi.
They're trying to get Villisco pointed in the right direction. That car, by the way, that just barely escaped the Villisco spin, the purple car, driven by Randy Standridge, car number 9. Now, here's how they're running. Louis Mann is the leader, followed by Jim Mohan in second, then Tony Elliott, followed by Ron Standridge, then Randy Standridge, and at the moment, they are still trying to get Villisco's car restarted. He'll be able to join the tail of the field.
We're running in second now. Jimmy Mohan in car number 6. There's a good shot, and he's another from the Springfield area that does a lot of driving on that little small, what we call the Springfield, Little Springfield. It's a quarter-mile high bank track on the eastern edge of that central Illinois city. And he has some company in this race because some of the other drivers from the Springfield area, Randy Standridge and Ron Standridge, and we saw their brother Rick in competition last week, Bob, in the late model stock car division. So the entire family involved in dirt track racing and sprint cars and stock cars.
All right, they do have Villisco running again. He's fallen into 7th position on the single file restart, and we should be going back to green this time around. 7 laps are completed. We've got 3 more to go in this 4th heat race of the evening, the first that we bring you live here on ESPN. The green comes out. Back to racing. Louis Mann gets a tremendous jump at the start and has already pulled several car lengths over the second place, driven by Jim Mohan. A battle for second. That was Tony Elliott trying to move around, but unable to. Mohan remaining in second position, Elliott in third, and Ron Standridge in 4th. 8 laps completed, 2 more to go.
Look at the difference in driving style right there. Tony Elliott from Warsaw, Indiana, down the low side. Mohan up on the high side, and now we've got a battle starting that transfer position.
And it's among, or rather between the Standridge boys, as number 9, Randy, tries to hold off number 10, Ron. And Randy up high, banging into the wall just momentarily. No damage done, though, however, as the checkered flag is going to fall on the field, and Louis Mann will have an easy victory here. Second across the line is Mohan, then Elliott, and then the number 9 car of Randy Standridge. There's your winner, though, of heat race number 4 of the evening, Louis Mann.
Well, Louis did not qualify all that well. Consequently, he got a better starting position in the second row because of the inverted start. But obviously, they made some changes to the chassis, perhaps the tire compound, the stagger, and the car was a lot more competitive in that heat race than what it was in qualifying.
We had 27 take qualifications here this evening, and he was the 19th fastest among them. Nevertheless, wins impressively here in his heat race. The top 5 finishers: Louis Mann, the winner; Jim Mohan finishes second; Tony Elliott third; Randy Standridge fourth; and Ron Standridge finished in that 5th position. So Randy, Elliott, Mohan, and Mann move to the feature race. Back with more live USAC Racing in just a moment. Well, you short track dirt racing fans are getting what you want tonight. Live here on ESPN as we're at Santa Fe Speedway in Hinsdale, Illinois, and these are the USAC Sprint cars. No wings, and we have seen tremendous racing all evening and still got 2 big events to go. Louis Mann, the most recent winner of the 4th heat. Here's Larry Newber.
Well, we've talked a lot about how hardcore you have to be to drive a sprint car and how rough of a sport it is, and definitely a sport for young men. Louis Mann, how long have you been driving?
Oh, about 7 years, I think.
Does it ever get easy? I mean, you've driven so many races, you've logged so many laps, you won here seemingly with ease, but is it easy in the cockpit?
No, it's very hard. It just takes about all I can do.
Another thing that we saw in that race was a classic example of you winning the race, running right down on the bottom. In second place, Jim Mohan, running way up on the cushion at the very top. How do you make the decision during the running of a race where to position your car?
Well, that's kind of difference between the old and the young, I think. I don't heel very well, and the young guys can take all those chances. I used to do that myself.
But on the other hand, Mohan is much closer to the wall. If you get to it, you got a running start.
Yeah, but I don't want to get to it.
Okay, Louis Mann has moved into the main event, Bob.
All right, thank you, Larry.
I like that remark. I don't heel as well, so I'm going to stay away from the wall. Although they say it's a lot easier if you're up close when you hit the wall than if you go across the track and smack the fence.
Well, that's what a lot of guys say. Of course, Richard Petty likes to drive that high line in Winston Cup racing if they're on the high banks, and there are 2 grooves. He moves up to that high lane and always says he likes to be up there simply because if something goes wrong with the car, there's less distance to travel to the wall, and you hit it not quite as hard.
Good crowd on hand for this program this evening, Bob. It's a nice evening, not quite as humid as it was last week here, and the track is holding up very well, and they're going to see a great semi and a great feature. In fact, we were talking about age. We've got a guy coming up that won a heat race earlier this evening, Bobby Kinzer. Now, there is a famous racing name. Bob is the father of Steve Kinzer, the many-time the World of Outlaws king. And Bobby told me tonight he'd won over 400 features and 28 seasonal championships in some 33 years of racing.
Larry, what do you got for us in the pit area?
Well, Bob, you know, the subject of the engine came up during the running of that race. Greg Staub in his Ford. This is the traditional power plant, the Chevrolet. This is about the same block, the same type of motor that's been running in sprint cars for about the last, 20, 25 years or so. Parnelli Jones was actually the first guy to start running a Chevrolet inside of a sprint car configuration. This has been one of the areas of the biggest change in sprint car racing the last couple of seasons. Steve Butler told me earlier that it was common to have an engine horsepower to maybe 570, 580, 600 horsepower a couple years ago. Nowadays, if you're not churning out 720 or 730 horsepower, you're not even in the hunt. And again, I repeat, this is still the same basic block they've been using for about the last quarter decade. So that's the area of the biggest change. There's also one more big difference. These engines will turn out about 2 gallons per mile. Yes, I said that right. Burn 2 gallons of fuel per mile. The Winston Cup stock cars would be stopping about every 20 laps.
All right, thank you, Larry. Well, the starters in the semi-feature race are being assembled in the pit area. We're going to have 10 cars in that race. Among them, the defending sprint car champion of the USAC division, Steve Butler, and also Kevin Huntley will be in the semi-feature race coming up. He right now is 3rd in the USAC sprint car points. We're at Santa Fe Speedway in Hinsdale, Illinois for USAC Sprint Car Racing, and we will be back to continue our action here in just a moment right after these messages. Bob Jenkins, Gary Lee, and Larry Newber back at Santa Fe Speedway in Hinsdale, Illinois for USAC Sprint Car Racing. Some of the fans on hand here tonight on a beautiful evening in the southwestern suburbs of Chicago. Right now, over in turns number 1 and 2, the track crew is scraping off the wall. And the reason they're doing that is simply because when you're traveling at a high rate of speed in a sprint car down the straightaway and the mud gets accumulated there on the wall, you don't know where the racetrack stops and the wall starts unless you have something to gauge the depth perception by. So that's what they're doing. They're scraping off the wall right now so the drivers know where it is in relation to the racetrack. And Larry Newber is also stationed somewhere down there. Larry?
Well, one of the people who probably would get a lot of votes for Mr. Open Wheel of the United States Auto Club, Rich Vogler, the winner of the first heat tonight, taking all the mud down that you worked so hard putting up there.
I did. I was running right against the fence in that heat race and starting in the back like that. You know, my theory is you can't pass a train on the same track, and they were running the bottom, so I had to go where they weren't.
Do you think it'll run down on the bottom if you need to later in the race?
I think so. It felt pretty good down there. And however, I think tonight the racetrack's going to be fast on top and possibly on bottom.
Richie, we talked about the subject earlier tonight about how much of a statement sprint car racing makes. You've been in Indianapolis car. We've seen you from the speed room in a midget. Are the sprint cars the ultimate expression of, let's say, macho?
Yeah, I guess you'd say that. I tell you, they're the most powerful horsepower to weight ratio race car in existence, I think. We got well over 700 horsepower for around a 1,600-pound car. And like in my heat race there, I don't know if the camera caught it, but the first false start I did a wheel stand coming off the second corner, you know. So we can get the thing hooked up so tight that the front wheels won't even stay on the ground. And that's just, I guess that's macho.
Richie, you run so many types of race cars, and I realize you prepare the same for every race, be it here at Hinsdale, Illinois, or the Indianapolis 500. But when you prepare for a sprint car race, do you perhaps pause a little more and spend just a few extra more seconds when you strap in and put the hat on?
Not really. When I get in a race car, whether, like you said, it's a midget at Speedrome or the Indianapolis 500, I do the same thing, and I have the same thing in my mind. I'm going to go out and win the race, and that's how I prepare myself, and hopefully my crew prepares the car the same way, and I think my Aristocrat Products car tonight is prepared to go out and win the race.
Well, as you can see, the maintenance on the track is still being conducted. The cushion is just about gone. I think by feature time there's going to be no cushion whatsoever. What can we look for? What can we look for?
There'll be a cushion there. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
Or make it yourself.
Whatever it takes.
Okay, Rich Vogler, tonight's fastest qualifier. He's all set to go.
Well, he just put on a terrific show during that heat race in winning it, coming from the back of the pack. And last night we were in Winchester, Indiana on the High Banks, a half-mile track, and he won rather impressively a USAC midget race.
And that was his 105th career USAC win. That makes him only 3 behind Mel Kenyon. He is 3rd on the all-time USAC win list. And first on that list is the legendary A.J. Foyt. That speaks well for the diversification, the talents of Rich Vogler.
There you can see the cars lining up for the semi-feature race, which will be coming up in just a few moments. Well, a little bit earlier this evening, Gary had an opportunity to explain some of the terms you'll hear in USAC sprint car racing, including stagger. Gary?
In USAC sprint car racing, the car really hasn't changed over the years. The engine is still up in front. The drive shaft goes down between the driver's legs and hooks up to a solid rear axle through a quick change rear end. On this car, there's an inboard brake. Now, we talk about drivers steering with the throttle. That is done through the use of stagger. For practice and qualifying, these drivers utilize maybe 10, 11, 12, even 13 inches of stagger, which means the right rear tire has that much more circumference than the left rear. As the track goes away, gets hard, gets slick, for the feature, we may be utilizing 6 or 7 inches of stagger. Keep in mind, they have 500 to 600 horsepower. So if they stop on that throttle too hard with all the horsepower and too much stagger on a slick track, they could spin out of competition.
Well, we haven't seen a whole lot of that tonight, and we hope we don't, as the competition, however, has been tremendous. They'll be pushing off shortly for the semi-feature race, a 12-lap event. We'll be back for it and more activity as we're live from Santa Fe Speedway.
The Monte Carlo SS of NASCAR champion Dale Earnhardt uses just one make of tire, the Goodyear Racing Eagle. And every Monte Carlo SS leaves Chevrolet with just one make of tire, the Goodyear Eagle GT Street Radial. Not by coincidence, because Goodyear makes better high-performance tires for the track and for the street. Goodyear Eagles, they'll take you home the quick way or to the winner's circle.
Goodyear, take me home.
The best auto racing on television is on ESPN. The drama of bumper-to-bumper NASCAR competition. The speed of Formula One, leading to the World Driving Championship. exciting IndyCar showdowns, and thrills from USAC, IMSA, and super-powered dragster. ESPN's award-winning coverage takes you to 5 continents for the best live auto racing on television. The driving force in motorsports, ESPN.
Well, we hope you were with us at 7:30 Eastern Time tonight for Speed Week. It's a weekly presentation here on ESPN. This coming Sunday at 12:30 Eastern Time, it'll be the Budweiser at the Glen Winston Cup race. And then at 8:20 in the morning, live on ESPN, the Formula One race as the Formula One cars take their equipment behind the Iron Curtain for the second time. So Formula One coming up live at 8:20 Eastern Time on Sunday, and then we'll be live at 12:30 Eastern Time Sunday for Winston Cup racing from Watkins Glen, New York. Well, they're beginning to push away now, the starters in this last chance semi-feature race, sponsored by CNA Insurance. You're watching the number 72 car, driven by Al Thomas.
We've had a few scratches because of engine problems, mechanical woes. Larry Rice apparently will not appear in this. He is a former dirt car titleist from 1973 USAC midget champion. And we also understand that Greg Staub in that Ford-powered number 44 will not be able to continue because of engine trouble, and something mechanically has sidelined Leon Gentry in car 61.
So we may be down to 8 cars in this race. It was scheduled for 11. And the number 6 car, driven by Kevin Huntley, he had a problem during the heat race and pulled into the infield. However, car's running okay now, and he's ready to go in this last chance event. And he is from Bloomington, Indiana. As we said earlier, he is 3rd in points going into tonight's program. And he was the winner of a USAC sprint car race earlier this year at Oregon, Wisconsin, Climax Speedway.
Well, we see that number 1 is being pushed away down the backstretch. That is Steve Butler. He is presently 2nd in point standings in the USAC Sprint Thunder and Lightning competition, the defending champion. Indicative of that bright white number 1 on the tail of that race car.
The track, by the way, in Oregon, Wisconsin is called Impact Speedway. What did I say? Oh, well. There's the number 10 machine, driven by Ron Standridge from Springfield, Illinois. He didn't make the transfer position in the 4th heat, so he goes here in the last chance race. Now, the top 8 finishers in this will complete the field for the 30-lap feature event.
Once again, the starting lineup will be straight up as they qualify. So the fastest driver in the field would be car number 1, Steve Butler. So he'll be on the pole, and we'll take the first 4 finishers. There's a good look at a lad from Kokomo, Indiana. Butler has 1 victory to his credit already this season at Terre Haute. And then he came back the 2nd time at Terre Haute and won again. So he's finished first twice. He's had a 2nd place finish and a pair of 3rds, and right now he's 2nd in the point standings.
Butler lining up alongside Kevin Huntley. There will be 4 transferred to the feature from this race.
We said earlier, Bob, that we did not think Larry Rice could repair the front-end damage sustained in the heat race, but apparently that is not the case, because we see on the backstretch Larry Rice is about to be pushed away. So good news for the Rice-A-Roni fans. The former school teacher, now a full-time race driver, and there's a shot of the nose of the car number 12. Just picked up that ride this week, in fact. So Larry, a 2-time Silver Crown dirt titleist and a former midget champion, and we have seen him at the Speedrome this season, the midget series at that East Side Indianapolis track, and he is about to be pushed away. There is that signal to push back, as we talked about earlier. Now he'll glance down the cockpit to see the oil pressure go up, and then he kicks the fuel, and the fuel shoots into the cylinders. The car jumps to life, and that 410 cubic inch Chevrolet is underway in car number 12.
All right, let's check the lineup now for this semi-feature. On the front row will be Steve Butler in the red number 1. Outside, Kevin Huntley. It's a black number 6 car. Going in row number 2 will be Al Thomas in car number 72. That's the orange and red car closest to you. Alongside will be Ron Standridge in car number 10. In the 3rd row, Keith Campbell, car number 53. Outside, moving into position right now, the yellow number 12, driven by Larry Rice. In row number 4 will be Frank Bilsko in car number 27, and Ray Joe Fager in number 30. and then Jerry Niemeyer in car number 16, but we do not see Frank Bilsko out there. So Niemeyer moving up alongside Ray Joe Fager in that 4th and final row. So 8 cars going here for 12 laps of racing.
So half the field will make the feature event, and half the field will find the cars on the haulers, on the trailers, before the feature event. So we only take the first 4. And I tell you what, it's going to be tough to beat that guy starting on the pole in the red and white number 1. That is Steve Butler. He is the fastest qualifier in this event as they start straight up. And Bob, I'll take Butler in this one.
I would think he would be a pretty safe bet. He's already won 2 USAC Sprint car races so far this year, both of them at Terre Haute. And he is 2nd in points. And as we mentioned earlier, he is the defending champion. That's the reason he has the proud number 1 on the tail of that car.
He's been racing sprint cars since 1981, so it didn't take him too long to learn the ropes and end up winning the championship in 1986.
Apparently we have all starters that will be going in this race lined up, and we should be getting a start momentarily, perhaps. Butler and Kevin Huntley, 2nd and 3rd in points on the front row for this 12-lap event.
You can also keep an eye on Larry Rice in that yellow number 12. He's an experienced veteran.
And Butler got the jump on the field, and so no start. They reform, head down the backstretch, and hopefully we'll get the green flag this time around. They'll begin to pick up the pace. They're in turn number 3. They begin to stand on the throttle now. Much better formation this time. Green flag is out. Steve Butler dives into turn number 1 with the lead, with Kevin Huntley running in 2nd position now. Huntley moving alongside just momentarily, though, as they exited turn number 3. But Butler gets the jump off the corner and leads lap number 1. Huntley running in 2nd position. Good battle for 3rd position at the moment. Ron Standridge leads Al Thomas.
There's a good battle toward the back of the pack for the 5th and 6th positions. Jerry Niemeyer is really on the move in that red number 16. Niemeyer has moved to 5th. There's a shot of 4th place Al Thomas in car 72.
And a car spinning.
Car in the infield.
That's Kevin Huntley, who was running in 2nd spot as the car spins into the infield, but he keeps it running and rejoins the race. Or will he? Now he's going to stop here on the main straightaway, and that's going to necessitate a yellow flag.
That nullifies almost a straightaway advantage that Steve Butler had on the field as Huntley tried to come through the infield after sliding off the track and lost the power. And when you get the RPMs down that low, the engine dies. So a yellow flag, and they'll push him off, and he'll rejoin the pack at the back. But that means that everybody bunches up behind Steve Butler.
And 2 good laps have been completed. Kevin Huntley getting the push off and rejoining the field, which is in turn number 3 right now. So again, Huntley will not lose any laps, and he falls to the tail of the field and will have to move up through about 4 more cars before he makes the transfer spot and automatically goes into the feature race.
Well, the real benefactor of that was Jerry Niemeyer. Niemeyer had moved from the 8th starting position to ride in 5th. He was moving up on Al Thomas, but then when Huntley went to the infield, Niemeyer moves to the 4th and final transfer position. So I like the way he's driving, and he'll have a great shot at moving up to perhaps as high as 2nd. I don't think anybody will catch Butler, but I'll tell you, Jerry Niemeyer is having a good ride right now, and he could well move past Thomas there in the 72 car and on by Standridge for a 2nd place finish.
They'll not get the green flag this time around, as Larry Rice has dropped back to the tail of the field for some reason, and Huntley positioned in front of him. Perhaps, I thought maybe for a moment Larry wanted to start from the tail of the field.
Doesn't appear so right now.
Yeah, he's definitely moving up into his assigned position, which is in front of Kevin Huntley. Now they're in OK formation. However, the yellow is going to stay out for another lap.
It's interesting that Larry Rice is having some trouble, because generally we expect to see Larry up toward the front of any racing pack in any kind of a race car, but he is having trouble, and he's back there right now behind Ray Joe Fager and right in front of Huntley, so he's got a long way to go. Car number 12, Larry Rice.
10 more laps to go. 2 have been completed. As we move to the front of the field, and there is your leader, Steve Butler. Ron Standridge in second position. They're in turn number 3. Butler stands on the accelerator. And now we get the green flag. I thought perhaps they wouldn't wave the green because Kevin Huntley had moved high on the racetrack.
He really had a jump that time.
Yeah, he did. But he didn't pass any cars before the green came out, so will not be penalized any for him. He's moving up quickly, though. There is Al Thomas, who's in third position, running the low groove, while everybody else, at least the 2 cars in front of him, use the higher groove.
Well, there's a battle for the 4th and final transfer position right there. We talked about the great ride for Jerry Niemeyer, but look at Keith Campbell.
Oh, and a car almost sideways coming off of that second corner. That's Jerry Niemeyer, but he rides it back onto the racetrack.
He never backed out of it. Down the backstretch and never backed out of it.
And Huntley getting sideways again up in turn number 3, losing several positions, and it's been a tough evening for Kevin Huntley. There's the battle, though. Keith Campbell is the white number 53, and Ray Joe Fager is number 30 as they go back down the backstretch, battling for that 4th transfer spot.
Well, Fager got him coming low off the second corner. He stays low off turn 4 and down the front straightaway, so Fager now puts about 4 car lengths between his position and that of Campbell, who rides in 5th. And here comes Niemeyer back in the 6th position.
Niemeyer's the red car right behind Keith Campbell. There he is. But on the high side, once again, is Kevin Huntley. He's way up on the cushion in turns number 3 and 4, but really not making much progress from that location. Now side by side. Yeah, it's Niemeyer and Keith Campbell going at it, but this is for 5th spot, and so they're really not battling for a spot that will take them into the feature race, at least at this moment.
But keep in mind, should something happen up in front of them, they could easily move up a spot or 2. But look at Huntley now on the high side. Now he's making that high groove work for him. He gets by Niemeyer and has his sights set now on Keith Campbell.
Down the backstretch, it's Keith Campbell still in 5th position. Huntley moving to the outside, though. Let's see if that high groove is where he needs to be. They come off the corner, and yes, he picks up the position. Now Kevin Huntley is in 5th. He needs to move up 1 more spot before going to the feature, and that spot is held by Ray Joe Fager.
Obviously, there's a lot of moisture on the high side. He's getting that right rear up in the cushion, up close to the fence, and standing on the throttle, using that to just slingshot off the corner. He's trying to close in on Fager in car number 30, but it does not look like he's going to make it unless he has a yellow flag. He may need a yellow to close the gap and have a shot at that 4th and final transfer position.
Way out front is Steve Butler. In 2nd position is Ron Standridge. Running in 3rd is Al Thomas. 4th, Ray Joe Fager, and 5th, Kevin Huntley. And
here comes Huntley. Here comes Huntley. There's Fager. Fager stays down low. Huntley on the high side. And Fager may not know he has somebody that close behind him as the laps run by. We'll have the white flag this time around. It looks like Huntley's going to take a shot at him on the high side.
Huntley once again up on the cushion in turns 3 and 4. He still cannot make the pass. Let's watch it. It's the last lap. The white flag has come out. Steve Butler's going to win this race easily. The question is, who will be the final transfer? Will it be Kevin Huntley in the black number 6 or Ray Joe Fager in number 30? In turns 3 and 4, Huntley is way up high, but he's not going to make it, as Ray Joe Fager, using the low groove, hangs on to that 4th position. And there is the winner, Steve Butler.
Well, there's a happy winner, but I have to tell you, I know Fager, and Ray Joe is a very happy driver right now because he has never driven any harder in his short sprint car career to hold off Huntley. Huntley was on the high side. Fager was committed down low, and that's one thing that's very difficult for a young driver. If he sees somebody else doing well on the high side or in a different groove from what he's running, sometimes it's too easy, it's too tempting to try a different groove, and maybe the car is not set up for that. Fager stayed low, he was committed down low, and finished in 4th. There's a good shot of Steve Butler, who won it, and he'll be starting now in the feature event.
And the top 5 finishers, Steve Butler the winner. 2nd was Ron Standridge. Al Thomas was 3rd. Ray Joe Fager 4th. And Kevin Huntley misses with a 5th place finish. And so the field now is set for the 30-lap feature race, which will be coming up in just a few moments here on ESPN. We'll be back with more sprint car racing after this.
High-performance race cars like the Win's Kmart friction-proofing special need high-performance chemicals to keep them running their best. Champions like Blake Speed have relied on Win's quality products for over 47 years.
To run up front in NASCAR Winston Cup competition, you need an edge. That's why I set up my own shop and build my own engine. And I use WINS Quality Automotive Chemicals in the operation and maintenance of my precision Oldsmobile Delta 88.
WINS products are available at Kmart, America's favorite store.
Looks like just a slight slice off the left side of the moon prevents it from being a full moon. Gary, you want to break out in a moon over Chicago chorus here?
I don't think so. Maybe next week for the midgets.
I think the people would probably just as well that you didn't. Let's go to Larry Newber in the pit area. He's with Steve Butler.
Well, we're looking at the hardware that Steve Butler won after the last chance race, but this isn't really what the ultimate goal here is tonight, is it?
No, Larry. We were sorry that we're even in the last chance race. We had brake problems in the heat race and didn't have any brakes, so we missed the transfer spot out of the heat race. So if you have to be in the last chance race, it's fun to win it, you know. But what we're looking for is to try to win that feature.
Okay, you did not win your heat race. Vogler won his. Some of the other top contenders won theirs. I suppose people at home might be thinking, well, Butler's out of it. He had to work his way up to the last chance race. Your chances?
Well, you know, a lot of times a guy does real well after running the last chance race because dirt track racing is all getting your car fine-tuned to the track conditions. So the guy that runs the last chance race gets the final, you know, chance to tweak it before everybody else. We've still got brake problems, though, so unless we can get those corrected, we're still going to have problems, I think. But we'll work on it here in the next few minutes.
Steve, you know, everywhere I go in the country, and no matter what kind of racing I cover, people think so much about the skill of driving. They think that is 95% of motor racing. But there's a lot of work that goes on in these cars between events. Like, what all do you plan on doing to your machine before the main event?
Well, the main things that we're going to do is change the weight distribution on the car. We think we have a little bit too much weight on the right rear wheel right now, so we'll probably put some to the left rear. What that will do is let the car slide a little bit more getting into the turn, but it should come off the turn better. So we've already changed shocks and tire sizes and everything today, so we think we're pretty close on those, but we'll just have to see in the feature.
Earlier tonight, Steve and I were talking about the very limited number of technological advances the sprint cars have had, and we have some viewers who are casual race fans and others who are quite, well, seasoned race fans. We were talking about fuel injection. They have made major strides in the fuel injection on sprinters in the last year.
Yeah, just in the last year or two, the horsepower level on sprint cars has gone up from 600 horsepower to 730 horsepower, which is pretty comparable to an Indy car. And plus, our engines are actually a lot bigger than the Indy cars. They're not turbocharged, but we have a lot more low-end torque and about the same horsepower. So although they haven't had any major technological breakthroughs, they get a little bit more refined every year.
Well, Steve Butler, we introduced Rich Vogler earlier as perhaps Mr. Speed of the United States Auto Club Open Wheelers. A lot of people might vote for Steve Butler.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Gary, you and I talked about just a little bit ago, and we'll follow up on something that Steve said. He may have, in a sense, an advantage by running in that last chance race because he knows exactly how the track is as we head to the feature.
I was going to make that point and amplify on that. The track does change drastically over the course of a racing evening. So if someone goes out and runs, say, the first heat race, the track will change so drastically that it's a guesstimation of what the setup should be. But Steve Butler, by virtue of being a third quick qualifier this evening, but going through the semi, had a chance to see what the track is like just before the feature. The track won't change that much now, and as he said, he has a much better idea of how to tweak that race car and make it more competitive. It will be a very tough race for him to drive if the brakes are fading. The brakes are very important at this racetrack because they come off the corner so fast down the straightaway. They get hard on the brakes to set the front end down, then right back on the throttle. They kick the rear end out. It could be a real workout if the brakes are fading.
Before we came on the air, 3 heat races were completed here at Santa Fe Speedway, 10-lap events, and we have an opportunity now to go back and recap what happened during those heat races. In heat number 1, we had a problem down in turn number 1 involving the number 69 car making contact with Ray Joe Fager, and Fager slides to the outside wall. So Ray Joe had to go to the tail of the field. And then in turn number 3, again, Andy Hillenberg involved slightly, but Keith Campbell was the one that spun in turn number 3, and he had to go to the rear of the field. This was the heat race in which Rich Vogler in the yellow car, using that high groove in turns number 3 and 4, was able to grab the lead from Tom Bigelow on the last lap, and Rich Vogler, driving the Johnny Vance number 2 machine, wins heat race number 1 over Tom Bigelow. A very impressive performance because Rich started that heat race from the back row. So he's certainly one to watch in the feature race here tonight. in heat race number 2. It was pretty much a Trey House race as he grabbed the lead early in the event from Larry Hillerud, and Trey House, driving car number 3, went on to an easy victory. And you can see again the different driving styles that have been displayed here tonight as Trey House used the low groove to win heat race number 2. And then just as we were coming on the air, heat race number 3 was wrapping up, and this one belonged to the veteran Bobby Kinzer as he beat Dave Pepperack, Kenny Jacobs, and Dave Feast, those 4 going to the feature race. But Bobby Kinzer, the old veteran, was the winner of heat race number 3.
He told me this evening he's only 45 years old, and I said anybody that drives a race car lies a lot. So I know Bobby's old and has been racing for 33 years. And as we said earlier, by his own admission, he's won over 400 features, and he's working on his 29th seasonal championship this year.
So the crews work on their cars in the pit area, and on the racetrack, the push trucks and the wreckers are out, kind of packing down the cushions so that multi-grooves will be used in this 30-lap feature coming up. We'll be back for it in a moment. We're back at Santa Fe Speedway in Hinsdale, Illinois for USAC Crestliner Sprint Car Racing, and the preliminaries have been completed. Just a few moments, we'll get underway with our 30-lap feature. Coming up on Speed Week this coming week at 7:30 Eastern Time, we'll of course have events from the world of auto sports, including the Hungarian Formula One race that we'll televise live here on ESPN Sunday. And of course, we'll have highlights from the Winston Cup event that we'll televise live at 12:30 on Sunday afternoon, and all the major auto racing events throughout the nation. Speed Week, 7:30 Eastern Time on Thursdays here on ESPN. We go to the pit area once again. Here's Larry.
A little more lore of dirt track sprint car racing. This particular subject is called tire grooving. The tires are actually re-engineered by the crews during the running of the races often. Now, here's what the difference between a tire that has had some grooving re-engineering done on it during a race night is from a tire that just came off the truck. Now, there aren't really more grooves on that tire, but they have taken this device and made the grooves more significant, deeper. There are actually 4 settings on that little box up there. Depending upon the wetness or the dryness of the track, you can actually make this groove go harder and deeper into the tire, or a little less if that's what you prefer. Now, there's also one other interesting aspect of this. This is used to make the tire groover slide along the tire, well, more evenly, to keep it from slipping. It's baby powder. Baby powder is applied to these tires when the tire groover is applied to the tire. Now, this is similar, believe it or not, to what Wayne Gretzky does in the National Hockey League. He also puts baby powder on a stick to keep the puck from slipping off and giving it a truer shot when he swings back and unloads one of those horrendous-looking slap shots.
Well, everybody was asking why Larry was carrying around a bottle of baby powder, and now we know.
Only Larry would get baby powder from a racetrack to hockey.
We'd like to say hello to Bill Marvel from the United States Auto Club, who has been with us on all of our live telecasts. He is home this evening with his wife, who was injured in an accident this afternoon in Indianapolis, and we hope that everything is okay and wish her speedy recovery. And we look forward to Bill being back with us a week from tonight as we present the midgets here at Hinsdale.
Maybe we could have Larry go out and check his technique on cleaning off the wall with the shovel there.
Well, that would be a good idea. We like to keep him busy, and he is good at that, so that might be a good idea. Well, now the United States Auto Club and the ESPN Network present a quick fact, and it's all brought to you by new Quaker State Motor Oil with QSX. It keeps your engine cleaner to last longer.
This race car is significantly different from the types of race cars we normally see on ESPN broadcast. Certainly a long ways from a Winston Cup stock car, maybe similar to an Indianapolis car. But as far as the safety protection for the driver personally, what he wears, it's very similar to those other types of racing. It begins with the full driver suit, fireproof of course, the specially made racing gloves, and the 3-inch wide 5-point harness system which holds the driver down inside the race car. Now, sprint cars have a tendency to, on occasion, invert themselves. And so there is one piece of special safety apparatus that sprint car drivers wear. It's called arm restraints. Now, there's a good reason for that. You can see without an arm restraint, should the car get upside down, the driver's arms, as Rick Unger's is here, can easily get outside the roll cage. But with an arm restraint, the arm is kept well inside the race car and very safe.
And the car that was used in that demonstration, and the driver, Rick Unger, had some problems during qualifying and is unable to compete during the heat races and the feature here at Hinsdale tonight. So we are just a few moments away from the start of our 30-lap feature. We're live at Hinsdale, Illinois, Santa Fe Speedway.
You're about to see the smartest oil change you can make. Introducing a new Quaker State motor oil with a revolutionary formula called QSX. QSX fights engine choking sludge better than other leading oils to keep oil flowing more freely. For a cleaner, longer-lasting engine, change your oil. Really change your oil to new Quaker State with QSX, the smartest oil change you can make. Don't miss the Quaker State 500 at Pocono Raceway on Sunday, August 16th.
When four-time Indy winner A.J. Foyt takes to the track, he uses just one make of tire, the Goodyear Racing Eagle. And the official Cadillac safety car takes to the track on just one make of tire, the Goodyear Eagle VR Gatorback Street Radial. And not by coincidence, because Goodyear makes better high-performance tires for the track and for the street. Goodyear Eagles. They'll take you home the quick way or to the winner's circle.
Goodyear, take me home.
Friday, relive a super bout from 1973 when Muhammad Ali battled a relative unknown named Ken Norton for the North American heavyweight title. Friday night at 10:30 Eastern on ESPN.
A week from tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, we'll be right here at Santa Fe Speedway for USAC Jolly Rancher Midget Racing. Now, of course, we've been at the Indianapolis Speedrome for regional midget activity. This will be a national event and will draw, we are sure, not only some of those who compete at the Speedrome regularly, but others that compete on a national basis with the United States Auto Club Midget Division. A week from tonight, August 13th at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, here on ESPN. And of course, Rich Vogler is in contention for a USAC Sprint and a USAC Midget crown this year again.
Yeah, in fact, he is the only driver to win both the Midget and the Sprint car crowns in the same season. He's a four-time Midget champion, and right now he leads in the point standings in both the Sprint cars and the Midget. So again, he could pull a double in 1987.
Let's go to Larry Newber, who a little bit earlier this evening was on the racetrack explaining some of the preparation that goes into the track before the cars get on it.
Preparation of a pavement racetrack is quite simple. You just keep it clean and dry. But so different for a dirt racetrack. Preparation for a dirt racetrack actually began months, maybe even years ago. In the case of Santa Fe here, special blue clay has been brought in, yards of it, because the promoter feels it holds the moisture better. The preparation crescendos on race day when tons and tons of water are poured on this racing surface. That is followed by heavy axle equipment, spending hours, hundreds of laps rolling around the speedway working that moisture as far down into the racetrack as they possibly can. Chemicals perhaps are even poured into the racing surface. But before the night is over, things will change significantly.
Well, got to tell you that
after the warm-ups, that the track was still very heavy. There were big clods of mud. Look how billiard top table smooth it is right now. You can see Rich Vogler going by. He's testing the waters to find out just how much of a bite does he have. Now, they're kicking up dust. Looks dry, right? Well, there still is a lot of moisture on the top level here. There still is a good tacky surface here about, well, a lane and a half too high as the cars and drivers enter turn number one. Watch for the top surface to dry off as this race goes on. But for the driver who can keep his momentum and his RPMs up there on the cushion or what's left of it, there's still some racetrack up here. So we could definitely see a two-groove racetrack here in the main event. Watch for Vogler and Butler perhaps running high.
Larry always has some very interesting observations, but I hope he's not using the rental car key to dig in the mud, because if he bends that, it's a long walk back to the hotel this evening.
Yeah, you're right. I never thought about that. I think I have the rental car key, so I think we're okay.
Hang on to him.
The cars being pushed away for the 30-lap feature race coming up here in just a few moments. There's the Trey House Machine, car number 3, who was a winner of an earlier heat race. So while the cars line up, we'll take one more break and be back with more USAC Sprint Car Racing. Bob Jenkins, Gary Lee, and Larry Nuber back at Santa Fe Speedway in Hinsdale, Illinois. Cars lining up for the 30-lap feature. Included in the starters, Tom Bigelow here in car number 28. He's from Whitewater, Wisconsin. Has a long way to go, though. He starts in the back row for this final race.
But he is the winningest driver in USAC Sprint Car competition with 52 career victories. But as you say, he's at the back of the pack.
And on the other hand, up front, starting in the front row, will be the number 12 machine. That's the number 12 car of Dave Feast. He will actually start in row number 4, inside of row number 4. Another number 12 will be starting outside of that front row, and it will be piloted this evening by Sheldon Kinzer. There he is. Now, Sheldon has driven race cars for many, many years. He made the Indianapolis 500 a few times and has battled race cars and other competitors on the racetrack for many years, but his toughest battle was last winter when he had a serious operation removing some cancerous tissue from the neck and the throat area, and he has fought back courageously and won the battle over cancer and is back in a racetrack.
Well, is it time for the weekly feature of who we going to pick?
Oh, I suppose. Go ahead.
Well, I think I'll take Rich Vogler.
Okay,
starting outside the third row.
Rich will start outside of the third row. I'm going to pick Steve Butler in car number 1. He starts outside of row number 2. And Larry?
Well, it's going to be very difficult to pick outside of the two of you. Let's see. You've taken Butler and taken Vogler. I tell you what, I'll throw a wild card into the hat. Let's go with Tom Bigelow. The start's going to be very important for Tom.
Oh, brother, from the back of the pack. That sounds like something I would do. Taking a driver at the back of the pack. All right, we'll see what he can do. He's got a long way to go.
Well, if Tom doesn't win, Larry owes us both dinner tonight after the race, okay?
Oh, I like that.
For that bold prediction here. Yeah, perhaps it's going to be more of a late-night snack than it is.
You know, I don't know how good the rapport is between Larry and the drivers on the racetrack, but if he has somebody out there that might just come by the low side and tap that throttle good and hard and throw some Illinois clay up and down that red shirt that Larry's wearing.
There's Rich Vogler. You can see 9 starts, 2 wins, 8 top 10 finishes in 1987 USAC Sprint Car competition. He's the points leader.
And he also leads in midgets, and we'll see him in action next Thursday evening here.
Right after our racing is completed here this evening, we will be switching to ESPN Sports Center for all the latest news from the world of sports. Hopefully at 11:30 Eastern Time, if our 30-lap feature progresses as it should. We'll be live with Chris Berman and Tom Mees on Sports Center following.
A feature record for 30 laps. Sheldon Kinzer set that back in 1981 at just over 9 minutes. So that gives you an indication of how quickly this race should go.
Here's the starting lineup. On the front row at car number 30 will be Jim Mullis, outside Sheldon Kinzer at car number 12. Second row, Tony Elliott in 57 and Steve Butler in number 1. The top 6 qualifiers earlier are inverted. Terry Shepard starts inside row number 3. Outside will be Rich Vogler. Those were the 2 fastest qualifiers for this evening. Going in row number 4, Dave Feast in car number 12, the yellow and red machine, and Randy Standridge outside in row number 9. The 5th row will be Andy Hillenberg in car number 69 and Trey House in number 3. In the 6th row will be Kenny Jacobs in the Genesee Beer Wagon car number 56 and Jim Mohan in car number 6. In the 7th row, it'll be Al Thomas in 72 and Bobby Kinzer in car 17. The 8th row consists of Ron Standridge in number 10 and Larry Hillerud in 51. In the 9th row, Dave Pepperack in car 77 and Louis Mann in 37. And in that last row, Larry's prediction for the win here tonight, Tom Bigelow in car number 28. And starting in 20th position outside row number 10, Ray Joe Fager, car 30.
As we say, the record set by Sheldon Kinzer back in 1981 at 9 minutes, 19 and 73 100 seconds. So almost 9 minutes and 20 seconds, and we should have the green flag flying the next time around.
20 sprint cars getting lined up, set to go for 30 laps on this 7/16th mile oval. And there you can see the Ray Joe Fager machine. He's hanging back just a little bit. Not at this point, anxious to catch up with the rest of the field. The front of the field moving through turns number 3 and 4 right now. The pace begins to quicken, and the green flag is out. The 30-lap sprint car feature underway from Santa Fe Speedway. And and the leader losing it in turn number 1. That is Jim Mullis, and being passed by several cars as they go down the backstretch. It's Tony Elliott leading, but look at Steve Butler on the inside in car number 1, the red machine. He falls into second. It's Sheldon Kinzer running in third, and Mullis is back to fourth.
Right now, as we look back at Vogler in that yellow number 2, he's wanting to ride that high groove, and he tries the high groove down the backstretch now into the 5th position. So he starts 6th, he's now running in 5th, and he tries that high groove. So he is committed, as we talked to him earlier, to stay on the high side. But there's Tony Elliott out of Warsaw, Indiana. He is content to stay down low, as is Butler, who rides in 2nd.
And he's beginning to put a little bit of distance between himself and second place Steve Butler, as Tony Elliott leads lap number 3. Butler running second, followed by Sheldon Kinzer, then Mullis, then Feast, then Rich Vogler as the yellow flag comes out. And we have a car spun down in turn number 4. That is the 69 car,
Andy Hillenberg is the car that has spun off the track, and he's down in the thick stuff down there on the inside of turn 4. We noticed on the start, we talked about Terry Shepard having such a great ride this evening. He was the 2nd fastest qualifier in that white number 40, but he got a very, very poor start and dropped well off the pace. He's running in about 10th position right now as they push. Ooh, look at the push truck just got over the rear bumper. Look at the damage he may be doing to that rear. Look, he's over the rear bumper. And I tell you, Andy Hillenberg out of Greenwood, Indiana, is furious.
Not happy at all.
I don't know if we can get a shot of the damage that has been done, but it looks like the wrecker, yes, the wrecker got up. Look at that. The wrecker got up over the rear bumper and caved in the tail.
Did considerable damage to the car, as a matter of fact, and will Andy Hillenberg be able to go again? That's a big question at this point. You can see that Andy is not happy with the situation at all. They're going to try to push him off again, and apparently the car is going to operate okay.
Well, the car should be okay, but that's a costly tank with the fuel bladder inside, and obviously the driver is not very happy about that.
So Andy Hillenberg will join the field at the tail end as the cars get in single file formation for a restart. We completed 2 laps before the yellow came out. Larry?
I'm standing about 50 feet or so before the apex of the turn actually begins its arc, the arc I should say, leading toward the apex. And each time the field goes by, it's a dust storm. Each time the field goes by, there's also one car that picks up a large number of clods of dirt, meaning that car and that driver are turning into the turn quicker and harder, apparently, than everybody else. The one car every lap doing that is Rich Vogler.
And Rich, at the moment, is in 6th position. The lead is held by Tony Elliott, then Steve Butler and Sheldon Kinzer, your top 3, and we could be going green this time around. 2 laps completed, 28 to go. And the green comes out. We're back to racing. And Vogler getting very high on the main straightaway, may have tapped the outside wall, and he's having a tough time regaining control of that car as he's passed by a couple of drivers. So he loses 2 spots there on that restart.
But he stays up on the high side. We talked to Rich before the practice session this evening. He said if at all possible, he would like to stay on the high side if there is a cushion to work from. He has a very little cushion, but what he has is enough for him to utilize. He is committed to stay on the high side. So let's see if he can work his way by traffic, and he almost stops again up there.
He got way high and jumped the cushion and brought the car almost to a complete stop before he got back on the accelerator and regained the momentum. He is in 6th position at the moment. Rich Vogler
outside the 3rd row in the 6th position, so he's not gained any. He hasn't lost any, but he's not gained any.
Lead is being held by Tony Elliott. Car number 57 with Steve Butler running 2nd. 3rd is Sheldon Kinzer, and again, Vogler way up high on the racetrack. You heard him say earlier in the evening that you can't make any progress following, and you have to choose the opposite groove that everybody else is running. And he's having difficulty working that higher groove as the car just jumps over the cushion and slows him down dramatically at some points.
Well, Fees was right out in front, and Dave was sliding up across the racetrack, coming off the corner and slamming the door, so Rich could not get by down the straightaway. There's Fees on the inside, and there is Vogler. This time, Vogler has him. Vogler has him, moves up to the 5th position, and now he stays down low. He's working the low side now.
And we have a problem over in turn number 1 as Dave Fees has spun over there, and the yellow flag comes out. There is Fees, stopped in the middle of turn number 1. Second yellow of the race comes out at the end of lap number 7.
Well, a rather dejected man, probably very upset with himself right there. There you can see the tear-offs that allow the drivers, when they're covered with dirt or dust, to rip away a layer for some clear vision. And he is waiting for the push truck to move into position to perhaps get restarted at the back of the pack and back to the competition.
All right, here's how they're running. Tony Elliott leads. Steve Butler is second. Sheldon Kinzer third. Jim Molis is fourth. And Rich Vogler is in 5th position. Now in 6th is Randy Standridge. 7th is Trey House. In 8th position would be Jim Mohan. In 9th is Bobby Kinzer, and 10th is Ron Standridge. Now the replay perhaps will give us an indication of what happened there in turn 1.
Well, Vogler has made the pass, and it looks like Fees is in. He climbs on the brakes to slow the car down, and he gets bumped from the back. That's what it was. Standridge nails him from behind and spins him on around.
That was Randy Standridge in the purple car number 9 that made contact with Fees, sending him into the spin. And they're trying to get him pointed in the right direction.
A very tricky, difficult track to negotiate, because this track only has 10-degree banking, Bob, so that is not significant for a sprint car competition. They can't utilize the banking to lean on the bank. And the straightaways are very long here. The turns are very, very tight, so they have to get into the corner very hot, as we say, very fast, climb on the brakes, pin the front end, and just as the rear end breaks loose into braking, they pick it up with the throttle and drive it off the corner. But as you can see, it's very slick on the low side, and some of the drivers are still committed to using what cushion there is left up on the high side near the outside wall.
And they are pushing him to the infield, so Dave Feast will be out of competition. You can see he isn't real happy with what's going on, as a USAC official comes over to check with him.
There you can see the neck brace these drivers employ, because the neck is strained throughout the competition. That helps to hold the weight of the helmet off the shoulders and also gives some neck support. There's a look at the front of the pack. It'll be interesting to see what Steve Butler can do on the restart. It will be up to Tony Elliott to pick up the throttle whenever he so desires on this the lap before they go green. And it's up to Steve Butler to stay right on his heels.
We've had one car drop out of the race already. Ray Joe Fager is pulled to the infield, and we're awaiting the outcome of the Dave Feast situation, and it appears as if he is not going to be able to go, so 2 have dropped from the original 20-car starting field. 18 still out there.
Sheldon Kinzer is back there in 3rd. This would be such a big win for Sheldon. In fact, he is now tied for 8th in the point standings with Rick under his first top 5 finish. Came earlier this season at Oregon, Wisconsin, where he finished 4th. He also has a 5th place finish. But other than that, it's been like an 11th, a 13th, a 13th, an 18th, a 20th. So this would be a big, big victory if Sheldon Kinzer, the 3-time USAC Sprint Car champion from Bloomington, Indiana, could pull it off. Now we have a pair of Kinzers in this race, Sheldon and Bobby. They are cousins. The whole Kinzer clan's related in somehow, but we would certainly not try to get into the family tree this evening.
The left front wheel is locked up on the Dave Feast car. That's the reason he will not be able to rejoin the race. Here we go. Green flag out once again. 7 laps out of 30 completed. Tony Elliott leads, but right behind him is Steve Butler working the low side. And there are the other members of the field streaming through turns 1 and 2. Everybody through nicely. Now we see whether or not Elliott can hold on to that lead, as the dust is getting pretty serious now. Many laps have been completed on this racetrack tonight, drawing it out just a little bit and creating some dust for the competitors to contend with. And Rich Vogler has moved to 4th. There is Steve Butler running in 2nd.
Steve Butler has gained no ground on the restart. In fact, he's about the gap between 1st and 2nd has stabilized as it was before that yellow. But Vogler has moved to 4th. So Vogler is the man on the move right now in the Johnny Vance yellow number 2. Vogler out of Indianapolis, the car out of Dayton, Ohio.
He'll be moving in on Sheldon Kinzer in just a moment as Sheldon hangs on to third. There's Sheldon in that white car running low. Rich Vogler up on the high side of the racetrack. Rich still running very close to that wall in turns 1 and 2 as he closes in on Sheldon Kinzer for that third position. They go down the backstretch. Look at Vogler close in, setting the car high on the racetrack.
He should have him this time. He should have him.
Well, he hit a little bit of rough.
He got over the cushion a little bit that time.
Into some rough racetrack up there on the cushion and was unable to do it. So Sheldon Kinzer hangs on, but there once again is Vogler working on him. They go side by side down the backstretch once again into turn number 3. Now Vogler, if Vogler can keep from jumping that cushion, he did. He may have it.
Got him that time.
He does. Rich Vogler moves to third and really does not have that much racetrack between himself and second place Steve Butler.
But now he begins to pull away, and he still has time to overtake second place and even the leader right now, because we have completed 13 laps. The leaders are working lap 14.
The lead still continues to be held by Tony Elliott. He has about a 6 or 8 car length advantage on Steve Butler. Elliott has led from the drop of the green flag, but before this one is over, it appears as if we're going to have a real challenge for the lead as Rich Vogler is closing in. We're at the halfway point.
You see the wheel stand coming off the second corner by Elliott. He has so much horsepower. They're saying now up to 700 horsepower that they can actually get enough bite to pull the front end off the ground as they come off the corner.
There is the interval between first and second, Elliott and Steve Butler. Some real fine action back on the backstretch as Sheldon Kinzer now has his hands full with the number 6 car of Jim Mohan. Mohan on the high side, Sheldon on the low side, and Trey House is also the third car there in the picture. He's running the low groove.
Well, there is Mohan going by on the high side. Can he make it stick that time? Yes, he makes the pass on the high side, and Kinzer drops to 5th.
Meanwhile, Rich Vogler is really moving in now on second position as we continue to watch this battle for 4th spot. It appears, though, as if the high groove is the fastest. At least most times. There is Rich Vogler as he has, as we indicated, really closed in now.
He jumped over the cushion that time in turn 4, lost a little parcel of ground, but now he's back on the high side again. And look, Butler has closed in on Tony Elliott.
This is going to be a barn burner before it's all over. We have completed, just about to complete 19 laps. We've got 11 more to go. It is a 3-car battle for the lead. Elliott in the lead at the moment, followed by Steve Butler and the yellow car driven by Rich Vogler. Vogler now really closing in on second place Steve Butler at the end of the backstretch. There is a 3-groove racetrack.
Butler slides up high in front of Vogler and slams the door on him. Now they are nose to tail down that front stretch. As Vogler stays up high this time, Butler goes down low.
Rich moving on the high side again, but losing just a little bit of ground. At least in the corners, he's able to catch up on the straightaways.
Now they're approaching traffic, Bob. Traffic may become a factor. Al Thomas is the driver slowing, and he heads for the infield. He is out of the race, but they may have some traffic to contend with in the next 4 or 5 laps.
They continue to run in the same order, but it is a close race. Elliott leads. There's Butler in second and Rich Vogler in third position. Sheldon Kinzer has climbed back up to 4th position and Trey House is 5th, but we really keep our eyes on this 3-car battle for the lead. Butler closed in on Elliott there for a moment in turn 2. Now Elliott stretching out the advantage just a little.
And they're closing in on Dave Peperack, the driver from Clinton, Indiana, near Terre Haute on the western edge of the Hoosier State. But right now, they're going to have Peperack to contend with. Peperack is staying on the high side there in car 77. And Elliott makes the pass again, pulls the wheel stand down the backstretch.
Well, it appears as if Vogler is dropping back just a little bit. There is quite a bit of racetrack now between second and third, almost a half a straightaway. The challenge for the lead. Steve Butler is on the inside.
Look at that, contact coming off the second corner.
Elliott holds off the challenge of Rich and whether a Steve Butler. Let's see if Butler can make the move here in turn number 4. Not at the moment, though. Tony Elliott hangs on. Completes lap number 25. We've got 5 to go.
Elliott got sideways in front of Butler. They almost took each other out and gave the victory to Vogler.
Tony Elliott has done a tremendous job holding off the challenge of Steve Butler. And he only has 4 more laps to go. Larry with a comment quickly.
The problem with Rich Vogler, a flat right front tire. Rich Vogler has a flat right front.
And he bumped the wall here on the main straightaway, but keeps going. So essentially, Rich Vogler is out of the chance of winning. Now let's see what happens here in the third turn. There is Vogler. You can see he's having tremendous trouble controlling that race car. This is lap number 27 completed. 3 more laps to go. It's still Tony Elliott holding on over the number 1 car of Steve Butler. They pass Andy Hillenberg going down the backstretch. There is Andy high on the racetrack in that white car. 28 laps completed. 2 more to go. Elliott leads.
This would be his first win of the year. He's had only 3 appearances, a pair of 7th place finishes, his best. He pulls the wheel stand again. This would be his first win of the season.
Here he comes for the white flag. 1 more lap to go. He's on the low side. And here comes Steve Butler high. 1 more lap to go. Let's watch him. Butler moves high, trying desperately to find the momentum that will carry him around Tony Elliott and the victory here this evening. Half a lap to go. Butler moves to the high side. He appears to be around Elliott at the moment, but can he have the momentum coming over? Oh! It is Tony Elliott, I believe, who won. Now a battle for 3rd and 4th. Kinzer challenging Vogler, and Vogler holds him off. Elliott won, I believe, but it wasn't by more than
a few inches anyway.
Yeah.
I think Elliott was the victor by maybe 12 inches at most.
Here they came off of corner number 4. That's Elliott low and Steve Butler high.
And Bob Kinzer right out in front of both of them.
They come down and cross the finish line, and
where is the finish line? Right about there.
That's how close it was. What
it was almost that close
race.
for 3rd and 4th. And there is your winner, Tony Elliott from Warsaw, Indiana, picks up his first victory of the season in USAC competition.
He came into this show 14th in the point standings, but will add to his accumulation as he wins the 30-lap feature race here at Santa Fe Speedway in Hinsdale, Illinois. We'll be right back with more. A thriller in Hinsdale as Tony Elliott holds off Steve Butler and wins by inches. Let's go to victory lane.
Bob, it was inches for about the last 10 laps, but Tony Elliott, you almost ended this for yourself before it began, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I just didn't know what to do. Just ran my own race.
You know, Vogler was moving up very rapidly using the high side. Whatever cushion was there, he was using it. Did you ever have any thoughts during the race of moving up there?
No, I never did, because I never heard any motors on the outside of the track or anything like that, so I didn't, even think about going to the top.
Now, unlike in Winston Cup stock cars where there are rear view mirrors as well as Indianapolis cars, sprint cars don't have them. Did you know how close Butler was all race long?
No, I didn't know most of the time. I know one lap there he got in the back of me a little bit, and I felt him back there, but other than that, I didn't really have any idea.
And lap traffic seemed to play right into your hand. Pepperack moved over for you. You were running bottom. He went high.
Yeah, all the traffic, went to the right places, and we just got a good break.
Well, Tony Elliott knocked off the people that a lot of people felt would do well here tonight. Butler and Vogler, and Tony Elliott is in victory lane.
This job by Tony Elliott in winning this race, leading all 30 laps, but he was never really ahead to the point where he ran away with it. In fact, had to really hold off Steve Butler there in the closing laps. The top 10 finishers, Elliott wins, Steve Butler 2nd, Vogler held on to 3rd, Sheldon Kinzer close though in 4th, Randy Standridge was 5th, then 6 through 10, Trehouse, Ron Standridge, Kenny Jacobs, Louis Mann, and Tom Bigelow. In just a moment.
Put some kick in your Sunday nights. Pro football never looked so good. The NFL comes to ESPN live this fall. Cable TV is your ticket to the NFL when the Chicago Bears tackle the Miami Dolphins. Sunday night at 8 Eastern. The NFL live on ESPN.
Let's go to Larry with the guy who almost did it, Steve Butler.
Well, Steve Butler finished 2nd. You heard or saw or felt Vogler, didn't you?
Yeah, I could hear somebody back there, and that's why, I didn't know how the top was. I tried it a couple of times early in the race and didn't seem to be very good for me, so I thought it might be one of those deals where it was just slow and stay on the bottom. So I worked on Elliott down there, and he stayed a good job of staying down there, and I couldn't get him. And then I saw the white flag, and I figured, well, I better go to the top if I'm going to win this race. And I went up there, and it wasn't bad. I wish I would have tried it a lap earlier because I just darn near beat him.
Well, I know everybody tries to win, but you won it for Elliott because as Rich came up, you slowed his momentum down, and then him trying to steer around you, he bumped the wall, got a flat tire.
Oh, really? I didn't know Rich was back there that long. Like I said, I can hear his motor every now and then, but we don't have rear-view mirrors, so unless the guy shows you a wheel, you really don't know where he's at.
Okay, second place Steve Butler, who wished he would have gone up a little north a little sooner.
And Rich Vogler now has a 12-point advantage in the national standings over Steve Butler. Well, we'll be back to wrap it up in just a moment from Santa Fe Speedway in Hinsdale, Illinois. We remind you that Sports Center will be coming up in just a very few moments. We'll be back to Hinsdale in just a moment.
You're about to see the smartest oil change you can make. Introducing a new Quaker State motor oil with a revolutionary formula called QSX. QSX fights engine choking sludge better than other leading oils to keep oil flowing more freely. For a cleaner, longer-lasting engine, change your oil. Really change your oil to new Quaker State with QSX, the smartest oil change you can make. Don't miss the Quaker State 500 at Pocono Raceway on Sunday, August 16th.
The record-breaking Corvette GTP race car uses just one make of tire, the Goodyear Racing Eagle. And every Corvette leaves Chevrolet with just one make of tire, the Goodyear Eagle VR Gatorback Street Radial. And not by coincidence, because Goodyear makes better high-performance tires for the track and for the street. Goodyear Eagles. They'll take you home the quick way or to the winner's circle.
Goodyear, take me home.
This is ESPN, the Total Sports Network.
Crestlider Vans USAC Sprint Car Racing from Hinsdale, Illinois has been brought to you by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. And by Wins, a better run for your money for over 47 years. Our winner of the sprint car race here at Hinsdale tonight was Tony Elliott by inches over Steve Butler. My thanks to Larry Newber and Gary Lee. For now, this is Bob Jenkins. So long, everyone.